If you've been following the channel for a while, meaning the last 6 months, I've been talking about this thing. I've been talking about, I don't think I'm going to get it. I did a lot of videos on the budget broadcast microphones, and I was kind of like, maybe that's it. I was wrong. I got a real problem. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video, yes, the Shure MV7X, to be specific. This is not the Shure MV7 that has the USB and XLR input, and I'll give my opinions on that throughout the video. It is the strictly XLR version of this, which, as far as I can tell, and as far as the research that I've done, it's pretty much the same exact microphone, except without all the innards of the USB interface and the access to the software that it has along with it, which, in my opinion, I don't need that. Not for me. It's not something that is useful to my taste and what I do with microphones. I like strictly XLR microphones that are simple, easy to use, throw in an interface, throw it in a console or a mixer or whatever. I like it to keep it simple. And I'm not really into USB microphones, but I will be covering a couple in the future. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the build of this really nice looking microphone. And I really do love the look of this thing, and I say this a lot, and I said this in my Rode NT1 video if you saw that. I like simple microphones. I like simple looks. I don't like anything too extravagant and crazy, but this is nice, compact, at least compared to the Shure SM7B, which is kind of like inspired and kind of like a little brother, if you will, to the Shure SM7B. And I will be doing a comparison between the two and giving my opinion, because it's one of those comparisons that I really look forward to doing, because can you save that money? Can you save the amount of money that it takes to invest in a Shure SM7B? Because it is an investment more so than just a microphone. This here, I do not have a FET head put in, and that's intentional, because I want to see if it could pass the tests without having that extra boost. Now, of course, the Zoom F6 can support the Shure SM7B without a FET head. It gives enough gain, but for this test specifically, I want to do it without it. And if you're interested in using that FET head and you're interested in a video of me covering it, let me know, and I could do it on this microphone. I could put it on a bunch of microphones. I could even do a poll of letting you guys decide on what microphones I could have in that FET head video. So going back to the build, when you feel it, it feels nice, but I can definitely notice a thinner body. It feels a little thinner. Not to say anything against it, but it is a little less. It's not very heavy, and for a dynamic microphone, I don't know. I really do feel that it could have been a little bit heavier, but I'm not upset that it's not. It's not really affecting it in any way. But we'll get into the tapping test in just a sec after I finish talking about the construction. The yoke mount I really love. I actually like the nice U shape it has here. The connector here, the 5/8 connector that goes to a mic stand that it's attached to right now, it's strictly on the mic stand, nothing in between. It doesn't rotate, so you got to set it up in a way that it works for you. You could get like rings, like washers and stuff to adjust for it, but remember that it's not adjustable like the Shure SM7B is. But I will say there is an Allen adjustment on the top end of the yoke mount, so you probably could adjust it, but just be very careful with that it doesn't spin off or kind of mess it up. Just be careful if you're going to use this microphone and mess with that. Now, lastly, the grill and the windscreen seems pretty nice too. I know people use the Shure SM7B windscreen as well, which we're going to do plosive tests and stuff like that in the booth. So grill here, very sturdy, really nice, and comes off, and you could adjust it however you want, but I don't think you'll ever need to take it off if you're using this regularly. If you like the tone of this without the windscreen, let me know down in the comments, and the booth part, I'm going to be doing a section of just checking the tone. So overall with the build, there's nothing really else than a couple logos here. I like the S, the Shure S right on top there as well. They kind of filled in the gaps of not having electronics in it, and pretty much it. That's pretty standard microphone. That's what I love. I love these standard microphones. It's really nice to see that they actually still put these out with all the craziness that they have nowadays. Now, the last thing with the build, I'm going to do a tap of the stand and the mount and everything. So this is the bottom of the mic stand, the top of the mic stand, the stock of the yoke mount, and the body. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll talk about it in the outro when I listen to it. Now, next up, let's get into some techie talk about how this thing is internally with the tech specs and all that stuff. I'll leave up a graphic for you with all the stuff, and I will talk about certain things that really stand out for me. So as far as the tech and the specs are concerned, the sensitivity is the first thing that stands out for me. A negative 55 decibel sensitivity. Now, as far as I can tell, all these specs are pretty much the same as the Shure MV7, the regular one with the USB output. I will say that the output impedance is different. The MV7 has a 314 ohm output impedance, while this one has a 252 output impedance. Now, for the most part, no one's going to notice the difference. If you're just using this for a streaming mic or a podcasting mic, chances are you're not going to notice the difference. If you have a decent XLR cable, you're probably not going to notice it. But for anyone who's using this in a studio, because you can use this in the studio, it's certainly a good microphone to use overall, and maybe you like the sound on certain things. Now, the last thing in Techy Talk, the frequency response, and we're going to talk about the frequency response in numbers and the curve itself. So 50 to 16 kilohertz. It's a nice range. It's kind of narrow, but it's not narrow enough to really upset me. It's narrow in the sense that it's not giving you much headroom for wiggle room, but it's okay. I mean, it's fine. It's not a big deal. And as far as the tone and me hearing it, of course, I'm going to give you my opinion in the booth. I do like it, and it's not really affecting my opinion on that. So now let's dive into the actual curve and talk about how it is, specifically how they laid it out and tuned it. Now, with the frequency response, this is definitely a tough one for me because I don't know the exact one for the MV7. I think it's the same as the MV7X. Well, this is the X. This is not the MV7. I think they're pretty much the same. If you know if they're any different, I'm going off of the one that they say is for both. But I don't know. This is on the MV7 spec sheet, so I don't know. It might be different. I don't know. But I have a picture up right here, and you can see it. So you can see on the low end, it's got pretty much a low cut off right there, starting at around, if you really think about it, like 150 to 200. And of course, there's a wave there, which we're going to get into. And it kind of dips off and waves down to 50, which is nice. A normal low cutoff for me is probably around 50, and that's usually where I would leave it. microphones like the AT2040 are a little aggressive for right off the bat. And of course, this doesn't have any switches, so this is what you're going to get naturally. You could do this in post-processing and stuff like that, EQ and stuff, but this is how it is naturally. Now, as we move out of the lows into the low mids and into the mids, you notice that it has a slight rise with some waves to it. Not too flat, but it's just wavy and has a steady rise. Not too crazy, but a steady rise. Now, as we move into the high mids and the mids, you see that there's a pretty steady rise as well, but then you start seeing some presence boost after 2K. It starts to get a little wavy around like that 2.5K, 4, 6, 7. I have bad sight. I'm looking at my phone. And around like 8.5, 9. You got some presence boost there with valleys in between. So for the most part, I do like it, especially that high end. It has some nice presence boost, and the low end. The mids, because it's a vocal microphone and a spoken word microphone, it's not really right for it, but it's okay. I mean, I trust Shure enough that they tune a microphone specifically to who they're putting it out to, meaning a podcasting, streaming, and all types of spoken word things. So I'm going to trust them. And when we get in the booth, and you guys let me know about right now how it sounds, but in the booth, you're going to get more of a controlled environment. So maybe you'll get a better representation of that frequency response specifically without any outside stuff. Of course, this is a mildly treated room. I tried my best to treat it. It's also small, so I'm doing the best I can with that, but in the booth, it definitely gives a better representation of what the microphone actually is. All right, so next up, we're going to do a noise test and an off-axis rejection test. This is my little studio here, as you know, and I'd made a little bit of changes. I put a moving blanket behind the camera right now to reduce reflection back off that wall. It wasn't much, but it's something that I'm trying to test out for these tests. And overall in my content, just you might notice some differences in camera angles, so that's me testing out these moving blankets and seeing if I can make this place a little bit more acoustically sound. And for this noise test, we're going to boost it up 10 decibels. I have a dehumidifier going off in the other room, and there may be some people walking upstairs. So here you go. All right, so not much going on. There wasn't anybody walking around. The pipes did move a little bit, so that could be something you have to deal with, noisy pipes. So let's do a off-axis rejection. Right now I'm talking about 2-3 inches away from the microphone, and now we're going to back up. All right, I'm about, 2 feet. About 2 feet, maybe even 3 feet right now away from the microphone, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection distance test. And the microphone's cocked a little to the side because just proper mic use and stuff like that. I still got to work on my microphone etiquette and stuff like that. So this is the distance test, and let's do the 90s. This side right here, and this is going to be the 90-degree test here. And remember, this wall that I'm talking to has a lot of stuff on it. There are some flat areas, but there's a lot of stuff on it, so it's really not going to reflect back at you. Parallel walls are usually the death to acoustics in your sound, so keep that in mind when you're placing your microphone and treating your room. All right, last test. About like 2 feet away from the rear of the MV7X right now, and this is going to be your off-axis rejection test. Remember, this is a cardioid polar pattern dynamic microphone, so this could be something that you have to deal with this type of room. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a little studio in your house, or if you're in a bedroom that's very similarly treated, possibly could be your situation as well. We'll do more in the untreated room with this test. All right, to the booth. All right, so we're in the booth right now with the MV7X, and the thing that I really notice is when you get up nice and close to it, I gotta loosen up on that gain. Get it down to about 50 right now. So what I notice here is a little bit of air there with this windscreen. A little bit of air when you get close up on it. But for the most part, I like the tone. I really do. It's got a nice low end, and it's one of those things that you really get the full performance of this microphone when you're up close. Very similar to the AT2040 in that sense. And when you start moving away, you start losing like texture and the tone of the microphone in which you understand what's going on. Now it sounds muffled. But when I get a little bit closer and you understand where I'm coming from, when it's the difference between having that low end presence and not having it with going back like this, and you lose kind of the contrast and everything and all the juiciness to let you know what's going on and what I'm saying, and you understand what I'm saying a little bit more. Let's get into a plosive test, and I will do a tonal test after with all the configurations that I have. So plosive with the provided windscreen. There's a little bit of a boing there. Now without it. It's okay. The SE Electronics. Love this thing. Now I have the provided original SM7B one, which kind of feels okay. It's good. A lot of people recommend this one. And now the big one that's provided with the SM7B. Now with this one specifically, since it's on here, let's talk about the tone with this. That you're losing everything. There's absolutely no texture at all. There's nothing. It's really just, you want to avoid plosives, this is great. But if you want a horrible performance with your, I really do think it takes away so much. It's like muddy and ugh. Compared to this, where you got it all wide open, and you're wide open to plosives as well. But with this specifically, I noticed the airiness, like the high end is very emphasized, which makes sense, and you get some of those, not really plosives, but you get the air bursts, which are I mean, it's like a plosive, but it's like when you're talking, you're obviously exuding air, and sometimes those bursts of air are not necessarily plosives, because plosives are more like a P, a B, and something that makes a pop with your mouth. But the in and out of air definitely is picked up as well without the windscreen on. Back to the provided one, which I noticed that when you get up nice and close with this, it compensates so well with it. You see that it does avoid those plosives a little more, but because it's off the diaphragm a lot more, I feel like you're losing a lot of that low end, and you're losing those tones that people like. I'm having a hard time with this one because some people were saying that they liked it better with the this one, but to be honest, I mean, sure, this, what's it called? This windscreen and this windscreen work great together. They work amazing together. But the thing is, I like the way it sounds naturally like this. I really do. And if you were interested in avoiding plosives a little bit more, and you don't mind having a big pop filter in front of your face, try to compensate with it like this. And you might notice that it's definitely not as egregious. You still notice it, but as long as you don't like really give it to it, like you're beatboxing or something like that, it should be fine. I do like the tone, and let's go back without it. Yeah, I don't know. I think if you do some good practice on avoiding your plosives and have good mic discipline, this is the best way to use it, in my opinion. This is how I like it. I like the way this gives that nice rumble of the low end, not an annoying rumble, but a nice low end, and gives some of that high end some presence there. It's a nice, well-rounded microphone. Is it the Shure SM7B? I'll save my opinion for when we do that comparison, but it's a nice tone. I really do like this thing. Now the real test is the Untreated room, which is right up next, and we're going to do a bunch of tests to give you a good example of what a more relatable room could be for you. All right, Untreated room time. I am in my old bedroom. There's a wood floor, but there's an area rug above it. I'm also talking towards a hallway with no door on the door frame, so keep that in mind. Could have some echo back, but this is a dynamic microphone, so you shouldn't have too much reflection back. There's a lot of stuff in this room, so consider that and try to see if you can relate it to your room. It's about a 10 by 10 room if I was to guess, and windows behind me, obviously, so you might have that as well. The noise test is where you might notice that, because in the basement, you're not going to notice that much with outside noise because it's dampened, because it's in the basement. In this situation, you have windows where noise can come in pretty easily. So, comparatively speaking, let me know what you think of the noise test. So, here it is. All right, so you may have noticed some traffic, possibly a plane passing by, and now we're going to do our off-axis rejection. There's a lot of stuff in the room, so I'm not going to be able to go all the way around, but I will do the 190 and 180 degrees, and the distance as well. Little distance, not too far. Okay, I'm about a foot away from the front. Maybe I'll move it away a little bit more. About a foot and a half, 2 feet away from the front of the microphone, the Untreated room. This is what it's going to sound like with your off-axis rejection with your distance test. Now on the 90-degree side, this is going to be your off-axis rejection, speaking into the corner of the room with a lot of stuff in here, and possibly hearing some reflection, maybe echo from the hallway over there. So keep this all in mind, just giving you reference of maybe relatable environments. Lastly, 180-degree test, cardioid polar pattern on the Shure MV7X, and you might have some reflection back off the windows there. Okay, so let's go have an outro and let you know what I think after I've edited some of this thing. And from the little bit that I've heard in the edit, obviously I listened to it a lot, and now I never listened to it in the booth until about a couple days ago. And I'm pretty impressed. I actually like this thing a lot. There's some things where it needs some work, but I like it. I really do. Now that is the MV7X XLR microphone version of the MV7, and I really do like the tone of this microphone. I like the way that it lays that nice low end under it, and it's not too aggressive, but if you get nice and close to it, it really is a good broadcast microphone. For me, I would probably add a slight kind of low cutoff, maybe a little bit more. I know I said 50 is right at the edge of mine, but maybe I'll add a little bit, maybe on my voice that's specific. But if I just ease it off my mouth just a little bit and not get right up on it, I really do like the tone. Now, of course, I'm not listening to it, but I practiced this and I was listening to it before. And it's really a cool tone, and it's one of those things that you got to think, it's not the Shure SM7B. The comparison will come out, but just a teaser, it's not the Shure SM7B. But it's good if you want to save some money. It's really good if you want to save some money. And it was on sale. I don't know if it still is, but if you could get a good price on it, even at the normal price at $180, in my opinion, and I'm going to be covering another microphone that will maybe change your mind on certain things. So, if you're thinking of the MV7 or the MV7X, think of it this way. It's over $200 for the MV7. It's under $200 for this one. If you're on the fence on which one you want to get, and you're leaning toward the MV7, the regular one with USB, and you're just going to use it for the USB functionality, I'd wait. And if you want a USB microphone and you don't want to spend the money on an interface and all the other stuff that go along with it, to be honest, if you get the Go XLR Mini or if you get the Wave XLR, it's not that much more, but I can understand where you don't want to spend the money. I will be doing a video on this little guy here, the Razer Siren Mini, and that is a very good microphone, USB, that has its limitations, but if you need something in the meantime and you're looking for a USB option, I really like that one. And that's saying a lot because I don't like USB microphones, being a studio nerd and all that stuff. One last thing, I do apologize again for that noise in the studio section. I didn't realize it. I checked my levels and everything before I even pressed record, and it just happened to be there. I don't know what happened. Could have been interference from something. I'm using a Mogami cable, so it's certainly not that. It's just, I don't know what happened. But booth and the Untreated room are clean. So if you're looking for a specific test, the noise test is better on the Untreated room one, which you could basically get the understanding of what the noise is going to be. You're just looking for hums, hisses, and buzzes in that case. But it was my mistake. And I added a little bit of denoise, like I said there, just to make it not annoying, but the Untreated room is a more accurate test. And that's all I got for you. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Helps this video, helps this channel, and really gets out to more people and spreads the Rebel Tech community out to more friendly faces, hopefully friendly faces. And if you're interested in joining the community and you like my vibe around here, please consider subscribing. Also, we have a Discord where you could join up and we could talk about tech and stuff on there as well and converse with other people. There's not many people in there now, but hopefully one day we can build it up to a point where it's building off that community and everybody talks to each other, and I don't have to be the only one giving advice and everyone else can give their opinions and everything like that. And the only rule is be nice. And that's a pretty vague rule, but you know what I mean. If you're not nice, I'm going to be less lenient with who I let in. One last thing, streams. If you want to join me in my stream and just hang out, I do streams on Monday till the end of 2021, and then I'm going to readdress it in 2022 when I work and when I have a job. Maybe it might still be Monday. I don't know for sure, but I will make an announcement when the time comes. And that's it. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. The only thing that I want to do is I want to pet that lemur. And no, that's not a euphemism.